also Scott's son-in-law.
Nice.
And Scott asked me to make a little announcement this week regarding coronavirus and how our church wants and needs to respond to that. So one of my specific jobs here is I take care of the coronavirus patients at the hospital. So this is something that I've become really acquainted with. Unfortunately, we've been slow to have much of an outbreak here, but it's picking up. So I'm going to pull out my notes just so I don't forget things. I apologize. This is not my specialty. So obviously it's been a difficult few months, starting back in March, maybe even a little bit before that. I think everybody thought that we were going to be in for a really tough time, and then especially up here in the high country, we spent a few months waiting and waiting, didn't have a lot of cases up here or anything like that. And so I think we all got a little bit frustrated with the way that we were being told to do things, and not being able to get together on Sunday mornings. And I'm really thankful that we're able to do that now. But this week, we had our first case of coronavirus within our fellowship. It was somebody who didn't catch it through our fellowship. We're kind of learning some lessons a little bit the hard way, because there were certainly other people in the fellowship that were exposed. And so we want to just take a minute and refresh on the ways that we can make this a safe environment for everybody and try not to be too heavy-handed with it. We do believe that getting together as a large group on Sunday morning is important and is valuable. And like I said, we want to continue to be able to do that. And what I'm here to tell you isn't about fear. I don't want to, that's not what I'm trying to spread. I just want to help everybody be wise, and also to be respectful, so that we can create an environment where more people are going to feel safe being here. So in general, most people are going to spread this virus when they feel well. So it's not the way that we typically think about things like the flu. And so that is the impetus behind the recommendation that we do what's called social distancing. So that's where you stay 6 feet apart from other people. And that distance really decreases the risk of you spreading the virus to somebody else just through normal things like talking and breathing. So on top of that, if you don't feel well, you don't need to come here on Sunday mornings. So even if you think that it's probably just allergies, or it's probably a cold, or it's probably something else, if you don't feel well, then we'd ask for you to stay at home and watch on the recording. And certainly let us know how you're doing. We'd love to pray for you, but the best way for us to be able to continue meeting as a group is to hold that standard. If you've been exposed to somebody who's positive and the health department tells you to quarantine, that's what you need to do. You certainly don't need to come here. If there are going to be more people in the near future that are going to have been exposed and they're going to feel well, and the health department will tell you maybe don't need a test, and then they'll give you instructions. There'll be other people who will just want to get a test, and then there's a certain lag. Sometimes that's a day, sometimes that's 2 days, sometimes that's over a week, just depending on the volume of people being tested. But in that time, we'd ask for you not to come to a large group fellowship while you're waiting on your test results. And so while you're here, in order to keep everybody else safe, keep your distance or wear a mask. Try not to touch your face. This is going to typically be spread through your either your snot or your saliva. And then the classic way that you're going to spread it to somebody else is going to be you touch your face, you touch something like the handrail, they touch the handrail, and they touch their face. So try and stop it that way. And then, because none of us are going to do that perfectly, wash your hands. The other thing to address is kids. So right now, there's a lot of changing information. The current thought is that kids are not very good at spreading coronavirus. And so they're in a little bit of a special class. And we are going to do our best to make this a fun and engaging environment for them. And so for right now, we're not going to plan on telling you that your kids have to wear masks. But it is best to stay in family groups, especially during the worship time. And then when we do the Kingdom Kids, we're gonna try and keep the kids corralled as best we can, but knowing that we're not going to be able to do that perfectly. But for kids too, if your kids don't feel well, then they're going to need to not participate in the group activities. So this is super hard even for me. Most of y'all have never seen me wear a mask before, and I don't like it. But this is certainly the best way for us to keep everybody safe. I think a great question for us is how do we conduct ourselves as followers of Jesus right now? And all of us are going to have different roles to play. There are going to be some of us who are going to feel led to be bold, and that's great. I want everybody to have the right information and to be able to be wise in that. There are going to be some people who feel like wisdom for them is to stay home and to watch this on a recording, and that's great too. Paul specifically talks in a couple of passages about how we treat people who have different concerns from us, and he addresses it in the way that some people didn't want to eat certain meats, and I think we can apply that really well here. We don't need to look down on people who seem like they're fearful, and we also don't need to look down on people who feel like this is a time when they need to be bold and to reach out. So I want to bless everybody here in the way that they're feeling led in that, but I want them to be wise as they step into it and to understand what they're doing. Does anybody have any specific questions that I can answer? Well, we've got a couple minutes.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So, what do you recommend for not being directly exposed to someone who tests positive, but maybe being exposed to someone who may have been exposed to someone that tested positive?
So it's a little bit of a complicated answer. So Juliet asked kind of what do you do if you're one step removed from somebody who tested positive, and that's going to be all of us here in a few days probably. So in general, once you're exposed to the virus, it probably takes at least 2 days before you're going to be able to infect anybody else. And after that, there's not really something that I can say specifically. Again, the majority of people who are going to be infected with this are not going to have any symptoms at all. At least that's the current thinking on it. And so the best thing to do is just to try and be smart and safe all the time. And if you have a reasonable concern that either you have been exposed or you don't feel well, then you just have to bite the bullet and try and back off from fellowship for a while.
Thank you. Nice job.
You have any direction on facial coverings? 4-week-old surgical mask or a washcloth, or I've seen all kinds of things.
Yeah, so there's a lot of controversy about facial coverings. So a mask like this, which would just be, I think that this is the most basic medical mask that you can have, is a mask that doesn't fit tightly to your face, and so around the edges, like here, is where most of my air is going to come from. When I breathe in, most of it doesn't come through the mask, or at least a significant part of it. And so the air that's coming around my mask is not filtered. But the filter on this mask would do pretty well at keeping virus to come in. The real benefit of a mask is that when you're wearing a mask, it's really difficult for you to get the moisture droplets that are going to carry the virus out past your mask in a way that's going to infect somebody else. So really wearing a mask is part of you not spreading it. So especially if you feel well, not spreading it as somebody who's an asymptomatic carrier. So it's not, the N95 masks, the ones that are harder, that fit tightly around your face and are harder to breathe in because you have to breathe through it, those do a really good job at filtering out the virus. But so when we wear them at the hospital, we actually have to be fitted for them to make sure that they fit correctly. So most people that are wearing those are not getting the benefit that they could provide, and it's probably overkill for just day-to-day stuff.
So if we find that we have been exposed to somebody who tested positive and we're not experiencing any symptoms, then how long should we kind of self-isolate?
Yeah, so it's a tough answer to that question. So the party line is 14 days. And that may not be as conservative as it ends up. There are some people that are asking 3 weeks, but right now we're saying 14 days after you've been exposed. Fortunately, testing is going to become more and more available, and quick testing is going to become more and more available. So I think that the county is having Saturday testing. I don't know if it was just yesterday or if it's going to be every Saturday, where they do free testing with a pretty quick turnaround. And so that's probably the best bet. I think I was at the high school. I think. Did anybody know anything about that?
Yes, it's doing it.
I didn't want to outshoot.
Are there going to be other tests other than the ones that go up your nose?
Maybe. Yeah, the test is not pleasant. But at some point there probably will be a saliva test. But then the reason that they put the swab in your nose and they leave it for so long is because it makes it a lot more accurate. And so the blood test does not tell you if you have it. The blood test is more of if you've had it in the past. So it doesn't tell you anything about whether you're infectious or whether you currently have the virus in your blood. So y'all, if people have questions, feel free to reach out. You should be able to get my phone number or my email from somebody if you don't have it yourselves, or just come grab me if you can before I load my kids up after church. So I think now we're going to take up the offering. So I'm not sure how we're going to do that.
How do we do that? Pass it back. Or people can come to it.
I see a basket here on the floor.
Maybe leave it.
Yeah, I think we'll leave it there as an attempt to prevent
if we pass it.
spreading our germs. And so, we're going to do that now, Mike? Or are we going to just leave it?
We'll just leave it there. I'll make sure it doesn't blow away.
Great. All right.
Good teamwork,
So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you for your service.